Hello, this is Dan the Furniture Repairman. Today we have a video on how we repaired this T-cart. One of the spindles were missing, the rest were broken. I made a new one on my lathe and colored it. Now we can't get all the spindles in without taking the outer wheel apart, so this is where we solved it. The broken spindles, I epoxied a threaded rod into one side of it after drilling a hole, and this is the way we're going to get it in. So we can slide it in the outside part of the wheel. Now for the hub, we have to let it in. So we cut a little notch right here, and it's going to slide in just like that. You can see the way that works. Now, we have to check a few things. One of the things we're going to have to do is check to make sure that the axle is going to be perpendicular to the wheel, and we can't get a square on it with current way it's built. So what we came up with is all these blocks, and then on top of these blocks we're going to just put a sheet of plywood, and we put a little hole in the center, and then the sheet of plywood is going to raise that level up. Once I have that level up, I can put my square on it and make sure I'm perpendicular, and I'll do this after I glue it up. Everything is dry fitted right now. We're just working through the process. So we know that we can get our axis perpendicular. We don't want the wheel to be wonky as it goes down as they move it around. The other thing I have to do is the height of the hub. So I put a few shims underneath to raise it to the correct height, and this is the way I'm going to check my height of each spindle. Make sure that they're all equal. I figured out the center of the two holes from the outside to the inside and made them equal, and that's the way I figured out the height of my hub. And I'm going to use this when I set the depth of my pieces. Now we're going to use moldable epoxy to lock the spindles into place. Very simple to use. Just cut a slice of it off and peel out the outside wrapper. If you go to the descriptions of the video, we'll put in links of where you can purchase some of these supplies. Now I've glued the other spindles in place, and now I'm going to start setting the broken spindles in place. So I'm just going to put that in just like that, and then I'm going to use just a small stick, and I'm going to press it in. It's important to press it in so you get it locked in against the fibers of the wood and that it takes up all the space. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I have glue in the hole where it goes into the outside part of the wheel, and now I'm going to just kind of take it and press it into place. After that, I need to check the height to make sure that I'm correct. If the height is correct, I need to let the epoxy dry, which is about 15-20 minutes. After the epoxy's dry, I'm coming back with a filler amount on top to finish filling in the hole to lock it into place. And again, I'm just going to use a little pointed stick right here, press it in firmly. I don't want it popping out. I want it to fill in all the gaps. I don't want that spindle to stop wobbling around. Now this is the epoxy. I leave it very rough because I know I'm going on top of it with a second coat. Now this is the wheel. Now everything's epoxied in place and dry. It looks very good to me, but now I have to work on my cosmetics. I'm coming back now with a second layer of epoxy, and I like to start with a lighter layer first, go with a darker layer over top of it. I tend to stay away from the greener, the redder colors, because red is sometimes very difficult to get out, color to get out of the way. So I tend to work with lighter and then less red colors. Even though there's red in the piece, I can add it in later during my touch-ups. And you can see I'm pressing it in very hard, and I'm smoothing it out just like that. And after that, I'm just going to take my fingers and pull it over the area and try to pull off any excess epoxy that's on the piece. Once I have that pulled off, I'm coming back with a razor blade, using that just to trim off any extra that's outside the area. And I'm just going to kind of work it and try to clean it up as best I can with a razor blade. Once I have it in that place, I just put a little water on my finger, and I use the water, and it smooths the epoxy down. Now it's probably going to take a couple coats to get it right. I realize that, but what I don't want to do is sitting too high. Now here's a good trick. I want to stand the wheel up, and I use 2 blocks and a clamp to do that. This spindle is a little loose in the area, so I'm going to epoxy it in place. I didn't want to use wood glue on this because wood glue doesn't do well with gaps. It doesn't have a lot of gap strength, whereas epoxy will harden very strong, and it'll fill in the gaps, and it'll keep that spindle from moving around. So mixing up my epoxy, just follow the instructions on the bottle, 2 parts, equal amounts. I'm going to just stir them right up, and once I have them completely stirred up, I'm going to pour them into this glue needle. So once they're in the glue needle, then I'm going to take the glue needle, put the plunger in it, and what I can do is kind of start shooting it in alongside of that spindle, and it's going to lock that spindle in place. It's going to glue it in place. It's a good adhesive, and it will fill in the gaps around it. The reason it kind of ended up this way is that the one end of the spindle was broken off. Now, I'm coming to the back of it and I'm shooting a little glue into the back of that spindle. The epoxy sets up in about 15-20 minutes, but I gave it a little longer than that to dry. After the epoxy is set, I'm just cleaning, before it's set, I'm cleaning up the area, a little denatured alcohol. Now I'm going to sand my moldable. Now this is 220 sandpaper, tri-folded, it'll help you work better. Work in a little small area. I'm just going to smooth it out, sand it down, and I'm going to feel with my fingers how it feels. Now, if I can feel the gaps or feel the transition, then I know I'm not high enough. I want to feel a smooth transition from the old wood into the new repair area. So I'm going to just keep going back. Now, a good trick is we call this strip sanding. You just take a strip of sandpaper and you put your thumb on the area and you pull the sandpaper through. Now after that, I'm just cleaning with a little denatured alcohol. That's not going to bother anything, and that's going to pull the epoxy dust out of there. And again, it may look good, but I'm checking with my fingers and I feel a little bit of a hollow there. So I'm going to drill out with my knife a few more holes, and this is what we'll call creating teeth. So we're going to create a rough surface for the new layer of epoxy to kind of bite into, grab into, and that should help it keep it from popping off. Remember to like and subscribe. If you have comments, feel free to put them in there. Tell me if there's anything you want me to see me make a video on. I'll try to see if I have something I could do it with. But you can see I'm pressing very hard on the piece, and now I'm coming back again with that razor blade, cleaning off my excess material. Sorry, I keep popping in and out of focus on this. Coming back with my stick, and I'm going to just kind of press it into place. I want to press it into those holes, and again, using my fingers and just kind of pressing it in tightly, and then a little bit more. I could feel I'm a little bit low right there, so I'm going to add a little bit more. Now I'm just taking my razor blade and I'm using the side of it, and I'm just kind of pressing it down like a putty knife, pushing it in, getting a nice transition there. And again, back again with some water. I'm going to smooth it all out, get it nice and smooth, and then dry my water off. I don't leave it sitting on the piece. And this is the epoxy dry. So I have some transition of color. I'm happy with that. And now what I want to do is fill in the small areas with a fill stick. So it's just like a wax piece of stick. I heat it up with a lighter. It flows a little bit better. And then I could kind of just smooth it right on the piece, and then again using my fingers, and you can see why I wear gloves, because I get pretty cruddy fingers after working this all this time. So get some good strong gloves and use those if you're doing these repairs. And the color I selected is, something I feel it's close to the base color. With the back of the sandpaper, I'm going to just rub this in. It's going to create a little friction. It's going to force it into the tighter areas. It's going to pull it off the areas where I don't need it, but there's some areas that are difficult to get to. So this is a clam knife. I use these all the time. These are great little tools. They don't cost too much, but you could use any sort of flat knife or something you like that. I heat it up, get a little bit on there, and now I'm going to just heat it up again with my lighter, get it so it's kind of loose and soft, and then I'm going to use the knife to just kind of get a little bit into those groove areas that's tough to get into with the crayon itself, and just kind of smooth them out, get them in there, and get the whole area filled in. Once I have it all filled in, then I can go to the next step. But you can see how nice and pliable it is. Now, fill stick does need to be coated with something so that it hardens up, or else it'll end up just rubbing off onto anything that brushes up against it. It is basically a wax. So now that I have all that done, I'm going to spray some pre-catalyzed sanding sealer on here. Now this is a little bit different technique. Typically standard sanding sealer would work here, but we're finding the pre-cat is dries a little faster, works a little better. Spraying pre-cat onto regular sanding sealer is usually a no-no, but with the small amounts that we're spraying, it works okay. Now the sealer is dry, and this is what I'm looking at, and I think mechanically I'm nice and flat. So now I'm on to touch-up. So these are we created a touch-up kit that has smaller containers in it. It makes it more affordable for DIY projects. This kit has all the different colors. There's small amounts in there. Now I'm going to explain a little bit about color theory. So the powders are going to come, most furniture is going to either have a reddish brown color or a greenish brown color, and you can see the touch-up powders I've laid out where they go. Now I'm going to use a light walnut as my
Now in
base
this
and a Van
video, I'm
Dyke as
using
my
graining
accent.
fluid. This is the first time I'm using it, but my friends at the supply house said it works really well, so I'm going to give it a shot. You can use denatured alcohol like I typically use during my touch-ups. You could use shellac. I'm not sure what's in graining fluid. I've never used it before, but we're going to give it a try. So what I do is get a little bit of my liquid onto my palette. I just use a paint can lid here, and then I dip my brush into my powders and make a little paint there on the palette, and that's going to be my color. So I already have a little bit of my walnut down. I've laid it down, and now I'm coming back and I'm just kind of dotting in the darker color, trying to darken my base color up. So my light walnut is my base color, and I've already laid it down, and now what I'm doing is just putting a little bit of that darker color on top. Now, the color on the piece I'm working on, the darker color is more of a red color, but I'm using a green based color to darken it. And the reason why I'm doing this is the walnut's a red based color. And if I go red on top of red, it tends to go much darker red than I would want. Red I could always add in afterwards. So I'm working with the green color because if I need to, I can float a little more red on top of it. But I think the red that's in the light walnut will be enough red because I'm doing the darker color so light that it will show the red from the light walnut, and I'll end up where I want. Now, red is the thing that haunts most touch-ups. It's one of those colors that it'll compound on you very quickly. And then here you can see it's dried. It's a little more blotchy than I would normally like with my denatured, but it dries very quickly. It leaves a bit of a hard shell. And now I'm coming back with my light walnut on top of my work. So what happens with red is, most colors add to each other, but when you put red on top of red, it doesn't add to itself. It tends to multiply itself. It gets much redder much quicker. And then red is very hard to mute down or get rid of or chase away. So what I like to do is when I go to my darker colors, I like to use something with more of a green base, which stops the red from getting too red in certain spots. And if at the end I need to add a little red, then I can add a little bit red at the end. So if I have something that has a little bit of a red color to it, what I will do is start with my base color, my lighter color as a red, and usually your base color is going to be a lighter color. And then I'll add a green darker color on top, and then if I need to, I can add a little bit more red on top. So now I'm spraying it. Now I'm using again the pre-cat sealer right there. You do have to spray the touch-ups. It's what kind of lets them become part of the varnish. So you can't just put them on and leave them. And this is kind of where we're looking. And I'm coming back again, and I'm getting closer. Am I there yet? No, but I'm getting closer. And that's really the key to all touch-ups. So with any touch-up, what you want to do is get as closer than you were the layer before and layer them on there. So now my sealer is dried, and this is a little 320 sandpaper. Now this is dried for about an hour, so really let it dry. And it's kind of bumpy and rough. So what I'm going to do is lightly sand it down so it feels smooth. And the reason why you want it smooth is you want the light to bounce off it correctly. And now I'm switching to my denatured. So I use my graining fluid, and now I'm going back to my denatured technique, and again same exact technique. And the reason why I'm switching to denature is I want these big broad brush strokes here. It didn't seem to be a good product for doing these longer strokes with it, and it did tend to leave that thicker layer on top, whereas the denatured evaporates all the way away and the only things left is the powder. And then when I spray my sealer on top of it, it tends not to have that highlighted area where the repair occurred, because what it does is it adds another layer of varnish on top of that area, and it's a thicker varnish and it tends to show. Now I'm doing little dots here, and you can see I'm using two hands to do these little fine touch-ups. I got a little bit of a jiggle in that one hand of mine, so what I'll do is I'll rest it on my other hand, or sometimes I'll rest it on something, and that gives me a little bit more control over these tiny little marks. And you can barely see the color I'm putting on there, but it's on there. And what I'm doing is just kind of dotting in a little bit of color, And now what I'm going to do is just take this darker color here again and just tiny them out. And you can see I'm using a small brush. So I like to use a brush that's much smaller than my repair. So if I don't have one that's smaller than the repair, what I do is take a larger brush and I just cut off a bunch of it and just leave the end of it smaller. So that's kind of my way of getting there. But if you can, just get the thinnest brush you can, and you just see tiny little dots going on, nothing more than that. And what's going to happen is the denature is going to evaporate away. The powder is going to be left there. And because the powder is just back to being the powder on the piece, I can move it around. I can take a brush like I'm doing here, dipping it in just some denatured, coming back with a clean brush, just denatured on it, no color. And I'm using it to shift my powders around, pull it, thin it out. You're always better being thinner and adding once you're too heavy than let it dry and just take a little cloth or your finger and just brush a little of it away just to get it out of your way. Now, on this part of the touch up, what I got to do is I got the wheel in a parallel clamp there. So it's another good little trick to hold things up rather than two boards. But not everybody has a parallel clamp, so I figured I'd show you how to do it with just boards. And now I'm coming back with my darker color again. And this time I'm going to add a little bit of the lighter color to there. And this is the way this works. I lay down my base color, always a lighter color. I'm going to put my darker color on top, and then I'm going to come back again, and I'm usually mixing the two colors and using that as a third accent color or second accent color, depending on how much of the darker I put into it. So I can do some accents with a mix of a much darker color, and I could do an accent with a mix of a much lighter color. That gives me transitions of color. That helps it all blend in and looks organic and tends to make it disappear to the eye. So you don't need to be an artist. You don't need to be exceptionally skilled at painting or anything like this. You just got to be able to mix a few things together, get a little bit of color on there. Don't let any of this stuff scare you. Trust me, I need a ruler to draw a stick man. I am not artistic, but I can figure this out. And figuring out my base color and then figuring out whatever top color goes on there. And then sometimes you need a third color. Orange, black are very common third colors I use. But don't let yourself be afraid that you can't do the touch-ups. Trust me, if I can do it, you can do it. I'm not the guy that's, a natural artist or understand colors, but I figured it out. And once I figured it out, it was pretty simple. So now I'm going to come back with my lacquer. This is a flat varnish. You need to put a lacquer on top of this because the lacquer gives it a hard shell. The sealer is much softer and not too heavy. Don't flood it, just a little bit on there. Let it dry a little bit. You can do a couple coats if you need to, but here's the finished product. It's tending to blend in. I don't think anybody's going to notice the repairs we did on there. I tended to mimic the blotchiness of the rest of the piece, and I think we're all set. This is Dan, the Furniture Repairman. Thank you so much for watching. Y'all have a good day.